Hello, hello. This is Chris Park from Arkin Games. I'm here today to show you what our current progress is. We're headed in towards our alpha with the first players at the end of this month, and so we thought we'd show a little bit about what's going on. So first of all, I'm going to warn you that the um, GUI, the um, buttons and text and all that are incredibly temporary, as should be, abundantly clear. We haven't put any effort into those whatsoever yet, as we're still organizationally figuring those things out. And then it makes sense to do the art versus doing the art like 5 times. So. Um, this is running in the Unity editor at the moment, so normally you wouldn't have this sidebar thing, and then I've got a little thing over here that's keeping track of the frame rate that I'm getting and some of the other statistics. I'm doing it this way instead of in the standalone, just so you can kind of get an extra view of what the performance is like. Um, One of the things that you'll notice right away is when I hit Start Game, I'm here in the galaxy map, and now I can click on planets, but I can't actually go into them yet. Now, this is how you select your starting planet. Instead of doing a quote unquote lobby that is before the galaxy completely seeds, what Keith had the idea was to say, okay, well, let's make it so that it's basically the same thing. The galaxy map, then there's a HUD around it, and you can do all of your selections directly in there. And everybody, it makes for a less divorced game state compared to, boy, I need to increase the zoom for that thing to fit. Good Lord. Um, and so, you can recognize a number of map types that are familiar from AI War Classic. And with these, right now it's actually showing a little more information than it probably would be ideal next to these planets, but that's, again, just a little working. I think Keith has that on purpose so that he can test that sort of thing. And so, we've got a lot of interesting map types already, just like in the original game, although this is a huge selection of ones that's, and these are all procedurally generated map types within each category. I'm flipping through categories here, not individual maps. And so, um, we've got a couple of dozen different categories of maps, which is pretty slick. So we never had that many in the original AI War until years and years of development had gone by, and the modding allows for you to make new ones as well at this point in this game. So you don't have to wait for us to do it if you don't want to. One thing you'll notice is the zoom is a little bit better. You stay a little more at this angle versus going super sideways once you start going down, which I felt like was a little more appropriate for the galaxy map. That's something that you can also change, will be able to change. So here is the arc. I think this is the first time we've really shown it in combat. Um, Now, again, like I said, this is a incredibly tempy sort of a um, interface, obviously. One thing you'll note here is we've got my arc should start pumping out squads pretty fast in a minute. Um, there are 42 squads of 450 some odd enemy ships here, and they are coming over to beat the heck out of my arc. And for a goodly little while there, I was having 200 frames a second. At this point, I'm still having 70 some frames a second. Now, this is interesting. Why am I not having more people? Let's do some cheat. I've got plenty of metal. What's going on? Arc, lazy bones. Um, it's kind of interesting. I don't know why it's doing that this particular time. Um, at any rate, the you've got like here's the warp gate, and you can see in the very bottom left there's this tiny, tiny, horrible, overly tiny tooltip, but it gets the idea across. So there's the warp gate that you can destroy. This is the controller for the planet. Don't build command stations anymore. There are controllers, which are these things, which are either controlled by the AI, as they are now, or they're controlled by nobody, or which happens if you blow it up, basically, or they're controlled by the player, and the AI can take them back from you, and so on. All the different things that you could do with a I'm gonna shut this off and start a new one to see if it'll go ahead and just make some ships for me. All the things you used to be able to do with Command Station in general, I mean, you still do that same sort of stuff, but it's a little bit more streamlined now. Okay, see, look, here come the ships and so forth already. Um, I'm not sure. I must have had some sort of setting toggled or something before. Um, yeah, so um, you'll notice some jitter in the frames here, even though it's staying well north of 60 frames a second. And the jitter, in especially when I zoom like this, there's one there. There's a little bit of jitters in there. Those are from a combination of the some of the optimization on the explosions isn't fully in there as best as I would prefer just yet, and then the um, there's just some multi-threading in general that we're still kind of working on with some pieces. You can see some ships that are kind of temporary. It's like, oh, here's a metal generator, a little block, and it's got a little cube for a thing. But for most of the ships and so forth, we actually have most of the three basic ship types, and some of the other really central types of ships. We've got the icons and stuff on the galaxy map. Some of them have icons, some of them don't. Um, Sensor scrambler there. Some of these just need to be assigned. They actually have icons, but didn't get to assigning them. You can see what it looks like here with planets that are um, scouted, that you're aware of exist, but you don't have any visibility into, or ones that you have visibility into because they're like adjacent to your actual planet. And, there's a shield. This is a very early version of the force field. It's pretty neat that it shows very well. This is a laser guardian. Um, Blue's actually finished doing the art for the Mark 1 through 5 laser guardians. They look really cool. I did not have time to uh, get that into place today, unfortunately. But yeah, this is a planet that I have um, visibility to from my scout sensors, but I'm not actually on it. And I can click to go through the wormhole. Whoops, that's the wormhole to not my planet. And so I can look around and I can see, okay, here's my planet here. This is my arc. And so you can select planets now, incidentally, which is different from the first game. So you can select them for a variety of purposes, and then you can double click to get in. Um, on this particular planet, it's handily smashed to bits everything that was there. Keith has been playing a variety of games and testing the multiplayer and all that sort of thing. Um, Blue and Synth and I have been working on the graphics in a whole variety of ways and performance. Um, the There's still a lot of things that are not. Um, let's move in closer. Um, there's still a lot of things that are not as performant as would be preferred. Some of the stuff I've written my own custom LOD system as well as a system for uh, now you guys kill. There we go. As well as a system for handling animations without requiring an expensive tweening system on there. We've got um, a whole bunch of batching and optimizations that we've done in a lot of ways. I still have yet to actually implement the new and more efficient um, uh, spline pathing and so forth for the individual shifts, but that's coming up shortly. Um, it looks like there are far fewer ships here than there actually are, just because they're not flocking around. Those teeny little fighters and stuff down there would be, swarming around normally. We've got 355 ships and 35 squads here, and this looks, mm, it looks like a formidable little group, but it's actually way more formidable than it looks even. So that's pretty nifty. There are, like I said, there are a variety of things that have these temporary, uh, text things over top of them, and then little, um, fakey gimbals and um, uh, what do you call it? Little cuboid things that are basically a sphere, but it's highly faceted. Um, those things will be gone even before the alpha for pretty much most of the ships. There will be maybe a few, but the a variety of these, like all of these particular ships, have their final graphics in place, and you'll notice that they get real nice and detailed as you move in close to them. These ones I'm actually still a bit far from, and there's a selection thing where you can like see that they're selected now. It's kind of neat. Um, and it's a very shader agnostic thing. It doesn't cost any extra performance to highlight those, which I'm really thrilled about. Um, it looks like some of the LOD stuff is not quite behaving as it should right now. Go figure. I go to make a video and it's not quite doing what it should. Um, there's a whole bunch of things that I would show you if I could, um, but a lot of that'll be done next week. And you know, you notice how that's a very kind of rough turn there um, with the arc making that turn. That's just a case where I've got to get some interpolation in there, and but I've had to do some really heavy restructuring of exactly how these ships are storing their data. Go ahead and start another one just for the heck of it at this point. Um, with the restructuring of how the squads and the ships and all that sort of thing are holding their data on a visual level, it's really freed me up to, let's take that planet. It's really freed me up to, how you doing? You're doing good. All right. Kill. It's really freed me up to just absolutely make sure that this is going to meet the sort of specs that I'm um, expected to have here, and that has meant that in pursuit of that, I have not done some of the visual flourishes that I otherwise would, and in some cases that leads to some kind of ridiculous looking things, like you've got these giant explosions that are happening over and over and over again. Does that look like a bug? I mean, it kind of does, but there's actually a stack of ships that are all right there, and so they're all blowing up repeatedly. And that's not one ship, that's actually a bunch of 10, 20, I think, I don't remember which, all stacked up on top of each other. And so it makes for some amusing little bits and pieces. But in focusing on performance and structure at the same time, now I'm in an ideal place where I can actually uh, do the extrapolation of how the shots go and all that sort of thing, from, for instance, where the shot says I'm done on the simulation side to then where it follows through and actually goes and hits the ship and have the ship, you know, either blow up or kind of fall and below the plane and crash below the battlefield plane or whatever I want. There's a lot of different things that could be done, and um, So I'm very pleased with that because my flexibility has gone up enormously, as well as us being able to really focus on performance. And we've got uh, 351 ships here at 250 frames a second, running the full simulation for the Galaxy, which is obviously not complete, but Keith has been just going gangbusters, adding to the simulation, and um, he's got a bunch of stuff going on with everything from the tech to um, like the build menus and so forth. Um, and Here we go, being able to build stuff in the queue, or he's just got a whole lot of stuff that's already done. And so yeah, there's still obviously plenty to do, but we've got a couple of months. It's late May before we're even to early access. At this point, Keith's playing some games end to end with multiplayer on, with the sync happening properly, and we're getting it so that we've got increasing number of ships that are fully complete and that have their various LODs. This is our other project here, just so you can kind of see what the ships look like with their. This is the full quality version of the what do you call it? Blah. Um, Missile Corvette. And if I select it, then you'll actually see it go down in LED quality as you go back out and so forth. So there's a lot of custom stuff in there, which is neat. This thing has the bomber has it overridden to show selection, and then there's the fighter, and you've got things like the force field, and Blue just finished doing the new force field generator, but I haven't gotten that in there yet. You've got the AI and the AI, nobody and player versions of these, and they make more sense when you see them kind of lit. So it's really lit up bright and it's more human-like. And then you've got the controlled by nobody, but it's still in the AI style version there. And um, these are some of the other early ugly mocks that I did for various of the big guardians. There are no guard posts in this game. Instead of having guard posts like there were in the first game, you've got these guardians which act the same overall, except they're mobile and they patrol around and they've got the ships inside of them. So instead of having a big circle of ships sitting around a guard post that just sits in one place, you've got these patrolling guardians, which themselves are terrifying. And they act kind of like carriers in that when you get over near them and aggro them, then comes out ships and they start getting you. And these are the equivalent of the Mark V versions of some of these. There are um, 5 levels of each Guardian, and they get progressively more imposing looking. And yeah, so there's still a lot to do, but I'm really pleased with how things are looking and how things are performing. Um, we're going to be able to get even better performance once Unity 5.6 comes out, especially on Linux and Windows machines, because of the Vulkan API that can be used instead of OpenGL or DirectX. And we, even on graphics cards that are a bit older, we should be able to get some um, probably almost double the performance, if not double it. And on just the pure visual side, there's also some things that Keith can pull off of the main thread entirely in terms of the simulation if we wind up running into trouble with contention there. And Unity 5.6 will be out probably before this is in early access, which is nice. Max, unfortunately, for I guess driver reasons, don't really have Vulkan support yet, but their performance on the if you are a Mac owner, then you're probably familiar with OS X Metal. Um, the support that's there is Mm, pretty similar to Vulkan. I don't think the performance is quite as high, but it's in the ballpark. And it has a lot of the more advanced features like instancing and so on that we could use to get this even higher. I'm running this on a 1080, a GTX 1080. So this is, a top of the line graphics card, but I'm trying to keep this at 200 frames a second on that graphics card while I am doing my various tests, and that's at max settings with all the effects on and all the trail renders and all that sort of stuff. Got some other CPUs that are, I've got a couple of other laptops that are not as powerful that I'm going to be testing this on as well. Um, and I think Keith has been testing mostly on a 650 something, I think, 650 Ti maybe. I don't recall, but my hope is that you'll be able to have 60 frames a second with um, a pleasing level of visual fidelity, regardless of your system specs. If it's, um, a computer that's remotely gaming-ish from the last 5 years. So, and, you know, if you want to get really nuts and just turn off the ships and just play the game of icons, um, that's something that will run on a toaster. So, that's not something I would really consider valid for minimum system requirements, but it works well enough for my purposes there. Yeah, these are the culling and stuff is kicking in there and making those ships disappear when they're further away. These missile corvettes, they're culling too soon. The bombers, I think, are doing better, but the missile corvettes, which I set up, just they're not at the right LOD level. See, that's still at so that it's a really nice and easy thing. I just gotta adjust the distances that are set up. One of the coolest things is that modders will be able to do that sort of thing as well. And you can use my custom LOD system on any sort of models that you set up yourself and that sort of thing. So I'm hoping that any mods that people do that have visual components, whether are you making a Star Trek or a Star Wars mod or something completely custom, yeah, I don't know. But if you're doing that, I'm hoping that with some of my YouTube tutorials and with some of the tools that I've been making for us, you'll be able to have just as good of performance on the stuff that's modded in. That's a goal anyway. Ooh, here comes the bad guys. You know what? Let's have some more waves. 1, 2, 3, 4, a bunch of waves. Where we got them coming from? Um, okay, yeah. I still need to work on um, the angle and stuff here. I do feel a little bit claustrophobic when I'm at this zoom level. Oh my, I guess. Oh my. So Mark III and Mark IV stuff. That's unfortunate. Um, hmm. Fortunately, I outnumber them quite a bit. And my arc is just, since I'm super metal rich, it's just cranking out guys again. So no worries, apparently. Um, yeah. Yeah, I wanted to show you some more, uh, whiz bang stuff in terms of the actual fighting and all that sort of thing. But we've been taking it one step at a time and really going for let's have something that we know functions and that we're not having to go and redo a bunch of times. And like I said, I'm really pleased with how that's turning out. There's been so much infrastructure work here for the last little while. This is going to kind of continue to accelerate in terms of the new things you're seeing. I know that you're seeing a lot of a lot of these ships are new for the first time for you to see them, and there's ones that aren't even here. The shield generator and the um, the Laser Guardian, not the Needle Guardian, are new. Um, but I'll show you those, well, next week. Um, Thanks for watching.